It's possible. Greetings. It is, gosh, it's March 15th, 2022, and we call this meeting to order. Janet, could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Councilmember Diaz.
Here.
Councilmember Juan.
I'm here.
Councilmember Wolf.
Yes, I'm here.
Vice Mayor Tillman.
Here.
And Mayor Clayton.
I'm here too. And with that, we're going to move on to item number 2, which is the meeting protocol video. And Janet, that is you.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar pursuant to the provisions of the AB 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is also being webcast on the City of Clayton's website. The mayor will call upon its council, presenters, staff, and other speakers by name and ask that they speak clearly and state their names before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via webcast and Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members of the public participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 and the mayor will call upon them at the appropriate time. Telephone attendees will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their name, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received by the Clayton City Clerk by 5 p.m. today will be entered into the record but will not be read out loud. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they are free to do so and should raise their hand and the mayor will call upon them at the appropriate time. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. The chat feature is not active. In order to get the full Zoom experience, please make sure your application is up to date.
Thank you very much, Janet. That is much appreciated. And with that, we'll go on to item number 3. And Councilmember Diaz, will you do us the honor of putting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Diaz. Much appreciated. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the consent calendar. And I will ask if any of my fellow council members have any item they would like to be pulled from the calendar. No questions? Excellent. With that, we'll go to public comment. If there is anybody in the public that wishes to have an item they'd like to discuss that's specific to the consent calendar, now would be a great time to raise your hand so that you can speak to that item.
Mayor Cloven, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Thank you very much, Janet. That's much appreciated. And with that, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the City Council. If there are there any questions, or can I entertain a motion to pass the consent calendar as written?
Diaz moves approval.
First by Diaz.
Second.
A second by Councilmember Wolf. Janet, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Diaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Juan.
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Tillman.
Aye.
Mayor Cloven.
Aye. And with that, we will close item number 4 on the consent calendar and move to item number 5, which is recognitions and presentations. We have one item, which is the proclamation declaring March Red Cross Month by the City of Clayton. Jenna, I believe there's somebody who would like to speak to this out in the audience.
Yes, yes, I have him here. Let me go ahead and promote Stan to panelist. Stan, as I promote you, please unmute your microphone.
Okay, I think I've touched all the right buttons. Can you hear me?
We can. Welcome.
Great, thank you. So, Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you very much. Good evening. I think I appeared before you last year, so some of the faces look familiar, so it's good to see you again. I just want to thank the city and the city council for your continued support of the American Red Cross My name is Stan Massey, and I am currently the chairperson for the Contra Costa Leadership Council, which is a countywide council made up of public and private partners, the goal of which is just to promote the mission of the Red Cross, whether it's a disaster, a blood drive, youth leadership, reaching out to our military. The Leadership Council exists to establish partners both at the city and the county level, and of course at the state level as well. So that's the purpose of the Leadership Council. Every supervisor has a staff member that attends each month when we meet. So it's an honor to be the chairperson of that council. And again, thank you for your support. So this, no new news here. This has been another challenging year for all of us, especially those who have suffered through one of the many disasters we've had this year. And as you know, we've had many throughout the United States. But when help can't wait during emergencies, American Red Cross volunteers and blood donors step up to help support the cause. So today our work is powered by more than 90% volunteers, including myself, along with community partners and people trained in vital health and safety skills. Last year in Contra Costa County, with help from many of our partners, we held numerous blood drives, including 16 in Brentwood. We held 2 diverse blood drives, primarily seeking sickle cell donors in Richmond, and we have 4 more scheduled in Richmond this year. In addition, we responded to an apartment fire in Brentwood, and with help from our partners, we were able to provide the necessary support to all the fire victims. In Concord last fall, we had the honor of bestowing one of the most prestigious American Red Cross awards, the American Red Cross Life Saving Award, to Officer Aaron Kamash for his heroic effort in saving on the side of Highway 4 a 2-year-old girl. He literally saved her life. And again, it was my honor to present him with that award out at Concord PD. In April in May this year, we will kick off our Sound the Alarm event, which is an event really to advertise the Red Cross ability to install smoke alarms anywhere that's needed. We do this all year round, but this is a special event to kick it off. And again, I would just invite you and anyone in the city, if you know of communities that need smoke alarms installed, you can just reach out to me, and we're happy to do that at any time. And finally, later this spring, the Red Cross will be conducting an evacuation drill with all 10,000 residents of Rossmore. So along with city and county partners, we will go through that drill, which is just part of our ordinary preparedness drills. So there's lots of things the Red Cross does throughout the county. It may not, luckily, if there's no disaster in Clayton, we're not there. But aside from disasters, we offer many preparedness courses. We have people that can come out and train groups and be Red Cross ready. That's the number one thing to remember, is to be prepared. We also have a very strong youth leadership team throughout Contra Costa. I don't know if Clayton has representatives, but again, if that's something that the high school in Clayton would like to be involved in, we can certainly do that. I do know, at least I think on the blood donation side, I think on March 10th, I think the charter high school for Clayton did conduct a blood drive, so we appreciate that. So I guess to sum it up, our community counts on the American Red Cross for help every day, and supporting our community is the heart of what we do. Our work never stops, even during this pandemic. Help can't wait. So again, it's an honor to be a part of the Red Cross and to help support the mission. And I guess lastly, I would say, not that you had a question about Ukraine, but a lot of people have been asking us, what is the Red Cross doing in Ukraine? So the American Red Cross has provided some key responders, not many, over there, people who are especially trained in certain areas. But the International Red Cross and the Red Crescent, which is headquartered in Western Europe, has obviously been very involved, and I'm sure you've seen their activity on the news. But I can tell you, we haven't done any blood yet because we haven't been requested to, but we are helping. The American Red Cross is helping in some of the neighboring countries. So if you're interested, the best place to find out what we're doing in Ukraine is just go to redcross.org. If you scroll down about a third of the page, you'll see updates on Ukraine. So there you go. Again, thank you very much for having us, and I appreciate the proclamation.
Stan, thank you. Thank you for informing us about what you do. It is much appreciated. And with that, we will be declaring March 2022 as Red Cross Month, and I'll read the following proclamation. Whereas in times of crisis, people in the city of Clayton come together to care for one another. This humanitarian spirit is part of the foundation of our community and is exemplified by the American Red Cross volunteers and donors. March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to honor the kindness of our volunteers and the neighbors who aid families in need every day as they carry out the organization's 140-year mission of preventing and alleviating suffering. And whereas, despite the ongoing challenges presented by COVID-19 pandemic, people have stepped up to help others in need, whether it was responding to this year's record-breaking wildfires, horrific tornadoes, extreme winter storm, cold waves, or summer heat waves. Volunteers continued to roll up their sleeves to give blood when our country faced a severe blood shortage. And whereas last year in Contra Costa County, 518 families affected by the 130 devastating home fires relied on Red Cross as our partners to comfort and hope, providing emotional support, addressing immediate needs, and helping families recover with emergency financial assistance or community resources. Through our Sound the Alarm program, we made 108 households safer by helping residents create a fire evacuation plan. Whereas Contra Costa County residents donated 17,277 units of life-saving blood, hosted 788 blood drives, including working several partner-sponsored diverse blood drives to help the fight against sickle cell anemia. 8,486 local members of the community took classes to learn the skills of first aid and CPR and save lives. 910 military members and their families received support and services, and humanitarian aid was provided internationally. And whereas the Red Cross volunteers deployed 552 times, dedicating 61,930 volunteer hours to assist neighbors in California and around the country during 41 different disaster relief operations of all sizes, including wildfires in Oregon and California and Hurricane Ida. And whereas their work to prevent and alleviate the human suffering is vital to the strengthening of our community resilience, we dedicate this month of March to all those who continue to advance the noble legacy of the Red Cross founder, Clara Barton, who lives by her words, "You must never think of anything except the need and how we need to meet it." We ask others to join in this commitment to give back to our community. Now, therefore, I, Peter Cloven, Mayor on behalf of the Clayton City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as Red Cross Month in Clayton, California, and encourage all Americans to support this organization and the noble humanitarian mission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to entertain any questions.
Just a
Go ahead,
quick
Jim.
comment. Besides all of this good work that and I've got history with the Red Cross. Back when I was going to school, I was a water safety instructor and lifeguard. And one thing that the Red Cross, they train people in that. And it was quite a rigorous amount of training, because you not only have to be able to teach people how to swim and so forth, but you also have to be able to practice life-saving techniques. And I'm assuming that the Red Cross continues to do that. Is that a valid statement?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if in all areas, but like you, as a young grammar school kid, my first swim lessons were with the Red Cross. And so that's really where I first was introduced to the Red Cross, like you.
Yeah, no, it has a wide breadth of services that they provide over and above the humanitarian type things that you mentioned today.
Correct. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, if there are no more comments from staff, we really appreciate your time. Mr. Massey, thank you for being here, and welcome to March 2022 American Red Cross Month.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. And with that, item number 5 is closed, and we'll move on to item number 6, which is reports, and we'll start off with our city manager. Raina, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Good evening. Just a couple of updates. The first, on March 7th, last week, we held our first TLC, Trails and Landscape Committee meeting for 2022. We have 9 new members, and we did some orientation for them, as well as a preliminary look at both look back at the 2021 budget year, as well as a very brief look at the current fiscal year. So we will be meeting with them again in May as we look toward preparation of the 22-23 budget, and they are already very engaged, and we're looking forward to working with them. So that's the first of my items. And the second item is just on the balancing act software that continues to be open for community participation. We encourage people to do so. We've had 240 engagements with the software and the page, and so far just under 30 plans have been submitted. So we're going to continue to make sure people know that that's available, and it is open through the first weekend in April. So with that, I do not have any other items this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raina. And with that, we'll move on to City Council reports. And let's start off with Council Member 1. You get to give your report, please.
Yeah, as mostly talking, emailing with folks. We had our budget meeting that I'm sure we'll talk about later. That's on the agenda here. So that's the sum of it.
Thank you, Councilmember 1. Appreciate it. Council Member Wolf, you are up next.
Thank you, Mayor. I met with you several times. Also met with our city manager. I met with Planning Commissioner Miller. Had a nice time with him. And stopped in and signed our Do the Right Thing student certificates at City Hall. And the only other thing was that on this past Friday, March 11th, celebrating our first mayor, Bob Hoyer's 101st birthday on Friday the 11th, and amazing man. So that is my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Wolf. And with that, Councilmember Diaz, your report is awesome. Go for it.
Thank you. First thing, it was a rather busy last couple of weeks for me. And in particular, on the 2nd of March, I attended the graduation of the 56th Academy from the Contra Costa Fire Protection District. They graduated 27 new firefighters. So we may see some of those new faces in Clayton at Station 11, but it was amazing to have a class that, in fact, that's the largest class that I recall. Then on the 4th, attended the East Bay Regional Communications Authority meeting. That was just a very perfunctory meeting where we had to do it simply because of the fact of the requirement of whatever that assembly bill is, so that we can meet via Zoom on that. But again, that body oversees all the radio communications for the first responders in Contra Costa and Alameda County. On the 7th, went back to Hoyer Hall and attended the art. No, excuse me, that was on Zoom. Attended the Art and Wine Committee meeting. That's moving along very, very well. We're anticipating a stellar return to live festivals and so forth, and looking forward to that weekend of the 23rd and 24th in downtown Clayton. On the 8th, Mr. Cloven and I attended a special meeting of the committee to address CEMEX, which is going to come up tonight on another agenda item on their development for their environmental report, which I'll leave to that. Then on the 9th, I had two events that I participated in. One is I attended the San Ramon Valley Exchange Club, which has members from all over, including Clayton, to talk about things that of interest to them. It's a very interesting organization, the San Ramon Valley Exchange Club. Later that evening, I attended over at Hoyer Hall, the CBCA special meeting. That was a very interesting, well-attended meeting. I think there was probably close to 50 people there. And I took very copious notes for that meeting, simply because of the position that I hold on the city council. I expect calls from various constituents and the media on that. And so I wanted to make sure that I had documented what was said. 3 items of importance came out of that meeting from the membership present. Now, it's now back in the hands of the board to act on those. So we should see what's coming up in relationship to that. Then last night, attended the next meeting of the Clayton barbecue, the annual barbecue committee meeting, and that's coming up on July 9 and 10. Professionals on Saturday the 9th, and then the backyards on the 10th. There is going to be a select private dinner on Friday night that's going to be held in honor of Rory Richmond, our original chair of that. So that's coming up July 9 and 10. Then today had meetings with the city manager and discussed a whole variety of things, including many things that we're going to be discussing tonight on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Diaz. And with that, we'll go to Vice Mayor Tillman.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Given that I've been sick the last 2 weeks, it's literally low key for me. I had my first meeting today with Raina, just to catch up on a few things. I also attended via Zoom the Budget and Audit Committee meeting with Jeff, and we have items on the agenda tonight to go over that. I missed the March 8th Clayton Community Library Foundation meeting, but I do know from their agenda that they're going to have their annual book sale. That will be, I think it's planned for April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And so as I learn more details on that, I'll share it. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Tillman. I hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
I had a busy couple weeks. On the 3rd, I represented Clayton in the mayor's conference, and it was a good meeting, and there was a very good presentation by the East Bay Regional Parks District, and they're talking about where they've come through COVID and where they're going and how they're positioning the district to be an example of resources to our citizens. It's a very impressive presentation. What they do is incredible. I did meet with the ad hoc committee with Councilmember Diaz, the CEMEX Corporation, regarding their EIR, which we'll be talking about later on the agenda. I also attended the CBA discussions at the special meeting in Hoyer Hall. And for those of you who don't know, it's related to 5 anonymous letters that have been sent that have a very menacing tone. The leadership of the board was trying to address those letters and what the future of the organization looks like in light of those. Bottom line, they are moving forward. They are trying to get members and be the representative they've always been to do the best they can to support our community and our schools and everything else they do. So they are exemplary, and I appreciate their efforts. The following morning, I had a meeting with TransPac, and then for the most part, this week has been about answering a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails. Since our last meeting, there have been multiple conversations on social media regarding taxes and what we may be putting on the ballot in November. and there's multiple conversations about housing and what's going on with the Balancing Act. Just know that quotes of what I have said or not said are misquoted if you're reading those boards, but that's okay. We're going to have some great conversations as a council in the future, and we're looking forward to seeing what we can do together to move our city forward in the right manner, united as a council. And that's great. I've also had some great conversations with people who are benefiting from the ARPA funds they've received, both businesses and individuals. I'm getting thanks, and that is very gratifying to know we're meeting people's needs, and we're doing what the federal government asked us to do, which is to distribute the monies in a way that we know is the right way to do it. And we, as a council, again, have been united in making sure we're very quick in getting it to the people who are in need. And that's awesome. And with that, that's the end of my report, and we will move on. Item number 6 is closed, and we're going to move to item number 7, which is public comment on non-agenda items. Now, for the public out there who are listening and want to join in tonight, this is your opportunity to speak on any topic you like that is not on the agenda. You're going to be given 3 minutes. As always, I will ask for you to be kind and be respectful and do the right thing as far as how you address the council as a whole. Please do not address any one individual. We are all working together. We all want the best for Clayton. And with that, Janet, are there any hands to speak tonight?
Mayor Cloven, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Wow. I'll give it a moment and see if somebody else wants to come in. All right. If there are no hands raised for public comment tonight, then I will close public comment. And item number 7 is closed as well. And we'll move on to item number 8, which is public hearings, for which we have none. And then we'll now move on to our action items. And we'll start off with action item number 9A, which is the accounting action plan to correct the fiscal year 2020-2021 audit findings. And if our finance director is in-house, it's all yours.
Good evening, Mayor Cloven, Vice Mayor Tillman, and council members. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Can you all see this? Okay, so tonight I'm going over an accounting action plan that's a result of our year-end fiscal audit, year-end 21, that we just recently finished. We've put together this plan in response to that. We had our budget and audit committee yesterday, and as a result of that meeting, we've made some changes to this presentation and to kind of our plan to segment our action plan into 3 areas. First, when we're thinking about this action plan, we need to kind of remember where we were in the past and what happened to kind of cause this. We had key turnover in management positions, pretty much all management positions. Since 2019, we've had multiple city managers, multiple finance directors, community development directors, and city engineers. So kind of moving past the past and creating this plan in order to help us move forward. So currently we are in the development and implementation phase of this plan, which I will be going through with you this evening. In the future, we hope and we aim to have transparent, systematic, and defined financial processes and procedures along with regular quarterly and annual public financial reporting. Just to quote Albert Einstein, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So coming up with new solutions to problems and documenting everything so that we have a good trail for the future. So as a result of yesterday's meeting, we've split and recommendations from Council Member Juan and Vice Mayor Tillman. We've split the timeline into 3 areas. So we're looking at the current year. We're looking at the second area is our response to the audit findings. And the last part is planning, which also kind of includes a response to the audit findings. So in the current year, which is now, we are currently, we've engaged with Mays and Associates, who has a government accounting specialty. They're a CPA firm that's local. And we have also engaged with NFP Accounting Technologies, which is a they're actually also CPAs, but they work with our accounting software. So they're specialists in the software that we use. So currently we're reviewing and examining our current books and records from the end of July to now. Or I'm sorry, beginning of July to now. I'm basically going through everything, making sure that all the postings are correct. Since there was that transition from July to October, just making sure that anything that was done before I arrived is correctly posted, has all the backup, and that that will be ready when we have to close our books at the end of this year. We're working with and Mays and Associates has already started their work, and they're helping us with that currently. And they should be reporting back to me by the end of this week as to where they are. We're also working with an outside software contractor, this NFP Accounting Technologies, and they're helping us identify and hopefully fix a problem with our software with the bank reconciliation module. And they did check in with me today, and they are still working on that. So we're also planning to, we have regular monthly internal reporting within our departments and for our department heads, but we just need to make that more systematic and defined and have, a date every day of the month, or, at the end of the month or beginning of the next month that we get those reports out, and that we have responses back from department heads so that, we can easily facilitate collaboration between departments, and that we can catch any errors if things weren't coded correctly, or, if an invoice is coded to an incorrect account, we can catch it on a monthly basis rather than, that having to wait quarterly or even mid-year. It's just much easier to catch that sooner. Another part of this this plan will be to develop regular quarterly reporting to the City Council and the public. We don't see that happening until the first quarter of the next fiscal year. So October of 2022, we would be doing our first set of reporting to the City Council. Just because we need to have all those the financial reports, created, we need to make sure that we have our processes in place before we report out like that. So that's why that'll take a little bit longer. The second part of this is our directly responding to the items in the audit. If anyone wants to reference the audit, this is on page 174 to 176. And it was on the report on internal controls. So We plan to close our books in a timely manner for 21-22, and that would be by the end of September, so that our audit can start first thing in October and hopefully be done by the end of November and early December. We're hoping to be able to report to the council. And that more responding to audit findings, we are going to be documenting general ledger closing processes and procedures, identifying all revenue and expense allocations, identifying and defining notes payable and receivable, documenting how to record fixed assets correctly and in a timely manner. And there are some quirks to our accounting system with the fixed assets module. So that's pretty much already taken care of. We just have to document how to do it so that in the future, it's clear. And also just so that they're done in a timely manner and not at the end of the year. The last part of the audit findings were IT audit findings, and I have made that its own slide. The IT audit findings were a result of bank fraud, and I wanted to make sure that everyone was clear about that and understood that. We did have outside bank fraud. A perpetrator got into our bank account, got our account number, routing number, and created and processed fraudulent checks and ACH debits. Since this, we've implemented positive pay and ACH defined blocks with limits. The city has recovered all of the money, excluding a $2,500 insurance deductible for the loss that we tried very hard to get back from Bank of America, but they wouldn't budge on that. To further address our IT audit findings, we're taking the following steps. We're currently reviewing proposals for a possible IT audit or some type of a review of IT systems. This is going to take some analysis as to what the best way to approach this is going to be. So we're looking at multiple ways to do this. The last part of this plan is also in response to the audit. And we put it as its own kind of area since it's important, is planning and succession planning, good documentation of all of our accounting processes and procedures, possibly using an outside accounting firm to be on standby in case one of us was critically ill and couldn't do our job, or if one of us left. Since it is such a small, we have such a small accounting staff, myself and one part-time accounting tech, that's a lot. So it would be a good process to have someone else that knows at least the overall systems, where to find things and how to do things, and could, come in at any time. Another part of the planning will be developing an accounting policy. Well, we have an accounting policies and procedures manual, but going through our current accounting policies and procedures manual and refining it, and as a response to a question from one of the community members in yesterday's meeting, who asked some questions about our policies and procedures manual, we were able to find out that within our new administrative services manual that we're developing right now, we can integrate our own policies and procedures also. So we plan to incorporate the accounting and finance policies and procedures into our new administrative services manual, and that will be automated, and it'll also be made available electronically. So, so as far as the overall plan of action, the cost and timeline, at this point, we don't know what the cost is going to be. We are I think by the end of this week, Maze will have a better idea, and we should also have a better idea soon with the software provider. And so that I think we're on our way to knowing, what the scope and the cost will be. But we plan to report back to the Budget and Audit Committee within 30 to 60 days to provide an update on progress, cost, and timeline. And with that, I will answer any questions.
I'll bring it back to staff, and particularly the Budget and Audit Committee in Councilmember Juan and Vice Mayor Tillman. Since you heard this last night, do you have any additional questions for Catherine?
I don't have questions right now. I think at this stage, I don't think we have enough information, but we are in the process of gathering it, which is the right thing to do. I think that we're at the early stages, and so as we find out more, we'll I look to Catherine and Raina to obviously lead the effort, and I hope they get the answers they need to address it. So at this point, I think it's a little preliminary.
Thank you, Councilmember Juan.
Yes, and the only thing that,
Tillman?
yeah, thank you, Mayor. The only thing that I would add is that I applaud them for jumping on this. I know Catherine just started in October, and it's, as it said in the agenda packet, the bank fraud that occurred was 3 days prior to her joining, and she was very nimble, pointed it out, and really got on it and let our subcommittee know what was happening. And then after we had advised her and other staff to kind of come up with ways to remedy all of this, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. And to Jeff's point, it is preliminary and early, and they're still gathering information, but we are on the right track. So thank you, Catherine and Raina. I know you guys have been working a lot of long hours to get us all the stuff that we asked for, to bring to council, and to get the city on track so that this doesn't occur going forward.
And I would just add, thank you, Vice Mayor Tillman and Councilmember Juan. And I really do want to applaud Catherine for jumping in to a very challenging situation, to learn a whole new system, a whole new organization, and deal with a lot of issues all at the same time. So I feel confident that we're on the right track and that we are bringing in the resources we need to make progress, and we'll be able to report back on our next steps in the next 30 to 60 days with a lot more information. So thank you for that.
I do have a quick question. It's clear there are going to be some additional costs that are going to be brought to bear relative to our consultants for both the software and figuring out the reconciliation aspect and otherwise. Are these costs that how are we evaluating how those will be able to be taken care of? Just out of curiosity.
So the NFP accounting technologies cost is probably not going to be that high. They're a preferred provider of our software company. So they put the ticket into our software company, and the software company has to fix it, and they're required to fix. So right now it's on the software company's responsibility, and we've only committed $600 to them. I think we committed 4 hours of their time, and they're $150 an hour. If there will be probably some additional time, but I don't know that it will be much more than 10 hours of their time for the other few smaller things that we needed help with for that piece. And as far as for Maze and Associates, we should know more by the end of this week as to what the scope and cost will be.
We will likely recommend, some of this was certainly exacerbated by pandemic issues. And so we will likely recommend these, mostly should be one-time costs that we use ARPA funding for it. And so that will come back with those recommendations in the May-ish timeframe.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council before I open up for public comment? Seeing none, if there is anybody in the public, I will open it up for your comment. You have 3 minutes. Raise your hand to speak on this issue. Janet, do we have anybody?
I have one hand raised. Terry, as I promote you to panelist, if you can please unmute your microphone, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Mayor Clayton. Can you hear me?
Welcome, Terry.
Excellent, thank you. I just wanted to briefly reiterate the point that Councilmember Tillman made. If folks read the agenda packet, Catherine came into a very difficult situation just a few days after coming into this role, and I just wanted to commend her initiative, and I'm impressed with the work that she started doing here and getting ahead of some of the challenges with the audit. So, I'm very impressed with Catherine's performance thus far, and additionally, all of the new staff that the city manager has brought on. Dana's doing a great job as the community director as well, and so I think just continue to support the staff. I think we've got good folks in place, and appreciate the work they're doing.
Thank you, Terry. I definitely concur. Janet, any other hands on this item?
I do not have any other hands raised on this item.
Thank you, Janet. And with that, we'll close the public comment on item number 9A and bring it back to the city council. Again, there's no vote on this item. We're review and recommend preliminary action. So with that, we can just bring it back to the city to continue their work. Is that the case, Raina? Are there any other items of discussion here? Jeff, did you have anything else you want to say?
No, I don't. I think there's a lot of work to be done. So it's not really it's not work that gets done in a meeting like this.
Well, I wanted to thank both yours and Vice Mayor Tillman's efforts on the Budget and Audit Committee on this. Just appreciate your being on top of it and helping our staff get through and getting us right. So if there's nothing more from the City Council, I will close item 9A of our action items and move on to item 9B, which is the adoption and resolution of appropriate American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds, for the purchase and implementation of claytonca.gov budget and performance management software. And we'll turn it back over to our finance director, Catherine.
All right, this evening, we are going to be presenting a piece of budgets software. It's actually a budget platform called claytonca.gov. Many of local governments around this area use it. And we feel it will really add a lot of value to Clayton. It adds transparency and just ease of use and just so much much more efficient way to do and to develop a budget. And so I'm going to pass it over to Ryan, who's the claytonca.gov representative, and he's going to give us a brief presentation with some examples.
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. And once again, to the City of Clayton Budget Committee and to the council, thank you for the opportunity to present to you guys today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And really, my plan for today is give about a 10-minute presentation. First, giving you a little bit of background of exactly what it is that claytonca.gov does, kind of providing some context to today. Second, I'm going to show you how does this make Catherine's job more efficient, Raina's job as city manager more efficient, and how council members can get more involved in the building of the budget. And then second, I'll show you what does this look like to residents? How is this making you guys more transparent and helping people understand the different decisions being made in regards to the budget? So let me go ahead and get started. I understand that there's a section for the council members to ask questions at the end of the presentation. So I'll just give this and then leave some space about 5 minutes afterwards for any questions that you guys have for me. But ClearGov, as we've talked to different municipalities and Clayton specifically, we've really learned that putting together the budget, a lot of that's being done through Excel spreadsheets. And if you know anything about working a lot in Excel and building a multi-million-dollar government budget in Excel, there's a lot of emails back and forth. There's a lot of broken formulas. And a lot of Catherine and Raina's job is bogged down with having to use kind of these outdated methods. And then eventually getting it into a budget book that's currently being presented in a PDF. We're just seeing governments across California say, look, modernization of the process is a must, and modernization of communicating this is a must. However, a lot of GovTech out there, not really built for local municipalities. And so that's where ClearGov comes into play. We create easy to use software to help government budget better. We believe that every community desires and deserves a government to work as effectively as possible. So we deliver what we call just right software built specifically for local governments. The way we do that is first, it's easy to implement. We'll take a couple of reports from your accounting system, Blackbaud, and we will do the onboarding for you. Catherine mentioned it's just her and one accounting tech. She doesn't have a whole staff to help her implement a new software. So part of what we offer is onboarding your data for you. It's user-friendly, not only for your team, the finance team, the management team and council, but also easy for residents to understand. Connects well back to Blackbaud, and it's affordable. So this is specifically what ClearGov has to offer. In the meeting agenda, you'll notice there's a packet filled with some information on all of these. Today, I'll show you a little bit of the back office tools that help build the capital, personnel, and operating budget. And then I'm going to show you how does this all automate into an online presence to show not only your budget book, but also different KPIs, projects, things of that nature in a transparency profile. So ClearGov, starting out with the back office and how this is going to help Catherine, management, and the council. We are cloud-based, right? So when you guys are putting together the budget, instead of having to manage several Excel spreadsheets, emails, share drives, all of it's going to be here in one cloud-based location where you can log in securely and see the budget in one place here. I've pulled up the operating budget of a sample town here, and this gives you an idea of what you'd be able to see. I want to make a quick note. This system allows us to add multiple types of users. We can add administrative users that basically have master access to the budget. We can add department heads, which will only be assigned a portion of the budget. So instead of them having to manage just their Excel spreadsheets, they only get a section of ClearGov where they make requests. But we can also add committee members and council members. So as the budget committee is working on the budget or the council wants to be informed of the budget being evolved over time, you're not having to wait for a council meeting to learn about this. You can log in, have read-only access, make comments on it, but see the budget as it's being worked on throughout that process. But you'll notice I have a progress bar, so this is letting Catherine know who has submitted their budget requests. We can see if there's a projected deficit or projected surplus as you guys work to balance the budget. There's also this chart here, which is giving you guys as a council, it's giving department heads, basically anybody who accesses any portion of the budget, historical visualized trends. So instead of just your eyes glazing over at cells on an Excel spreadsheet, this is saying, look, in the bright red, have we been consistently over budget in one area? Or in the green here, have we been consistently under budget? So it's really bringing that data to life, helping you guys make better informed decisions. Down below, this is where we can make some adjustments to the budget, or like I said, see adjustments being made. This is a sample chart of accounts, but it would reflect exactly what you would typically see in your chart of accounts in Blackbaud. But you'll notice there's ways to come in and change the dollar amount for a request. You can come in and change the percentage. You can even make comments, add attachments, and you can even make notes or add more justification as to why certain changes being made. There's also an audit trail within the system, so it allows Catherine and Raina to see if there's changes being made in the budget, who made those changes, when did they make them, and even be able to track down that person. So here's a quick look at what that searchable audit trail looks like. That's a little bit of building the budget. The next part I want to show you is what will this look like to the public? So the first thing I'll show you is the budget book. Currently, right now, the city of Clayton is presenting their budget in the way that most municipalities are putting this out, in that it's a print first, web second format. In other words, you're putting together this printed PDF through Word and then posting that printable format online. And the issue with that is, first, every time you make an update to the budget, this needs to be re-uploaded. And second, the average resident sees 187 pages. A lot of them aren't accountants. They don't know where to go, what certain things mean. So ClearGov will take this document here, and you'll be able to, from all of that stuff you put in the operating budget, automate building an online web-based budget book. So this is an example of one of your neighbors, the city of Martinez. But I can see if I'm a resident, and this is what they'll see for the budget book, but if I'm interested in looking at different portions of the budget, instead of having to flip through those pages of Excel spreadsheets, I can go directly to what I'm interested in seeing. I'll give you an example of what their general fund and their budget book will look like. But you'll notice there's a description here. This text is automated for you guys. So the numbers, these charts and graphs, as you guys update the versions of the budget, all of these will update with it. And residents can even view the budget in an interactive format. So as I highlight over certain numbers, I see the exact number I'm looking at. Even can say, what if I took out taxes in this example? How would it update the chart here? The spreadsheet breakdown below is going to be there in a really easy to read format as well. And a quick note, all of this is ADA compliant. We went through an audit for ADA so that even users with visual impairments or disabilities in that format can read your budget book as well. We can also print this to PDF, so it's not just online. So if you guys did want to have a printed document for your records, we could print the entire book or just a couple of pages, but it's going to put together a really nice budget book that has a cover page, footer, page numbers, and even a table of contents that's pre-linked. So if I click on a certain section, it takes me directly to where I want to go in this printed budget book as well. So that's the budget book. The next thing is going to be your transparency profile. And your transparency profile is actually going to connect to y'all's website as a link. This is an example. The town of Paradise, California actually works with us to do some transparency efforts. And one of the reasons that they wanted to use us, and I thought this was definitely applicable given that this is the Red Cross month, but is to communicate their road to recovery from the Camp Fire that happened a couple of years back. But similar to this, there would be a link on the City of Clayton's website. They're using this to present different projects that they're working on during that recovery plan. So however you guys want to use this for projects, for financials, you're able to do that. This is an example though of some of the projects they put. They have it on a map of their city. You can even pull up specific projects to see, what are the different images that are included, locations on a map, or what are the expended project budget for this. As you build out your capital budget in the back office too, this can also auto-connect to a project profile for you. One other way that you can use your transparency profile, I'm gonna pull up another city here that I think has done a really good job of making this their own, is having a really easy to view website of showing residents how is the budget being spent throughout the year, providing them with up-to-date budget to actuals, providing them a demographic snapshot. We already have all of this demographic information from the Census Bureau, so that page is going to be built for you. These financials will be built based off of what you're working on in the budget. And residents can break this down and even type in what their annual property tax bill is to personalize their experience, to see how much of my tax-paying dollars are going to different sections of the budget. So in this example, I can see 435 to Public Works, 790 to Public Safety. One other thing that Catherine mentioned that you guys are doing is you guys are displaying different checks that you write to your residents, but you're doing that right now in maybe a more PDF or printed format. ClearGov, it can be interactive and automated for you guys. So residents that are interested can easily come into this checkbook section of your transparency ClearGov profile and see the checks that are written. So you can have that transparency as well. And anything you see here can be removed or customized. So if you didn't want to show every single detail here, Catherine mentioned wanting to hide the check number, we can absolutely do that. The last thing I'll point out is this dashboard functionality. Basically, as you have different departments that want to communicate initiatives they're working on or give kind of an explanation of what's going on, I'll give you a city council overview so you guys can really get an idea of what this would look like for you guys as you increase your transparency. But you're able to add in basically a custom information in the back office to present this to your residents in a really nice format to where they can look at each department, see what things they're working on. Y'all are able to add in these customized statistics and these interactive charts and graphs and really keep the residents informed. I also noticed, at this meeting here, after every meeting item, you guys ask for feedback from residents. There's an optional feature to add in the ability for public to have comments on what's going on, the transparency profile, and then you guys can respond to that comment either privately or publicly. But that is my overview of ClearGov and how this would help both, one, streamline and make more efficient the budget process, help with a lot of that succession planning Catherine was talking about, and make you guys a little bit more informed as you're working through that. And two, how is this going to help your residents be more informed about things going on in the city, specifically with projects, departments, and the budget book. But I'll stop here and see if there's any questions that the council has for me.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your presentation. I had a quick question for Catherine and Raina. Have you spoken with any of our local communities near us who are using this and interviewed them relative to this platform's effectiveness? That's question number one. Any references?
I have not yet spoken to them. I do know that Mays and Associates is helping with a few other local jurisdictions that are currently implementing it, but I guess that would, I haven't spoken to anyone yet.
Thank you. I appreciate the honesty on that. And Ryan, maybe you could help them in those conversations as far as getting references and talking about how the implementation is going at local jurisdictions. I saw that you had Martinez, which is pretty darn local. Mm-hmm. The second question is I had, and it's more of a curiosity because I like what I see, but it's I assume this was recommended by Mays, which is our consultant currently.
No, I've been looking at this since probably December, January.
No, sweet, thank you.
I just mentioned it to Mays, and they said that they were working with a few others that were currently implementing it.
Visually, it's very intuitive, and I really like that about it. It's as simple as using some other platforms for accounting that I see, and it's nice. I like the dashboards aspects of it. My curiosity is, were there any other platforms that are similar to this that we looked at as alternatives?
So OpenGov is one of the other ones that's similar to this, but it's not the same thing. This is still very individual. Like you don't have your own websites. With OpenGov, and OpenGov is a much more expensive platform, and it's used for larger jurisdictions. I believe the city of San Pablo uses OpenGov. So that's the other large one that's out there.
We did use OpenGov in San Pablo, and it's not as robust a tool, quite frankly. It's not as strong on the budgeting aspect. It's more of a pulling you go through a budget preparation process, but frankly, I didn't find it nearly as intuitive, to use the word that you used, Mayor. In doing it. We've also had some experience with a company called GovInvest. We have their platform for pension and OPEB. They do actuarial work, and they have some forecasting tools, and we've looked at their budgeting forecasting tools. And again, it's nowhere near as powerful nor as easy to use. So there are those other tools that I have evaluated, I've looked at, and I have experience with. And they have not met the same standard that ClearGov has in terms of usability and additionally, the ease with which we can create a public portal that helps advance the transparency, whether it's on individual spending items or on things like projects, et cetera.
And just to add to what Raina was saying, one of the main developers that we've been working with at GovInvest actually said there was nothing like ClearGov on the market, and he couldn't match what ClearGov does. So he actually admitted that. So they did give us their letter of that this is proprietary software. Also, that's at the end of the package.
I will say that in light of my recent conversations, and many of them quite heated in the last couple of weeks relative to our budget concerns, both currently and in coming into the future, having something like this available and transparent online would be very beneficial for future conversations. And with that, I'll open up to other council members for your comments or questions to either Ryan or staff.
While you guys are thinking of questions, Mayor Cloven, just one of the things you asked about was maybe some referrals or references. In the agenda packet of the ClearGov proposal on page 18 and page 42, I did include a couple of references from some California municipalities and what they've spoken about our system. Will Fuentes of Campbell, California is on page 42. And Monte Sereno, their leadership is on page 18, giving just a quick snippet of some testimonials, if that helps.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. I did have another question. And looking at this, it appears that we're going to pay for 3 years of this through the ARPA funds at about $16,500, or total of basically $49,500 from ARPA funds, which, by the way, is fabulous. It's great that we can use federally granted funds for us, and it doesn't come from our general fund to pay for that. But given our skinny budget as it is, what I would hate to do is if our citizens do not keep asking us to tighten our belts, it'd be difficult. I'm just talking 3 years from now, we'll have to budget for this. And I just want to make that a statement that we'll have to budget for this if this is something we become dependent on. I'm just aware of that.
I think that's a valid point, Mayor. And can you hear me? Sorry. I think that's a valid point. It's a valid point. And I think given how critical it is that we just heard, not only from his presentation, but hearing in the prior agenda item, just how difficult it is with everything that they're trying to piece together in terms of the budget and all the time that they're spending doing that. And also all of the time that would free up to work on other projects, et cetera. They are a small staff. Yesterday, when I heard that they were working on spreadsheets and trying to pull all of this together, it really, really bothers me. I can't even emphasize how much hearing that bothers me, because it's just ripe for mistakes and manual entry and things not being caught. And then just thinking about someone having to sit there while a spreadsheet is locked because someone else is working on it and they're waiting, the amount of time that they had to be sitting around waiting for them to be able to input their entries and collaborate together is mind-boggling to me. And it is 2022. We really need to move into this decade. And we're so far behind, and knowing that this can free up time for them, I get that it's $50,000. But I wouldn't have a problem cutting something else if it came to it in 3 years, if it was necessary, right? We were elected to make hard decisions. If something else had to be cut to make our staff more efficient and have City Hall running smoother, especially with the demands from the public that is occurring now, because it's a different town now than it was years ago. I think that this makes sense to me. So I wouldn't have any hesitation in moving this forward with this resolution. We can have further conversations on how we want to allocate the budget for that, but when we have a $5 million annual budget and we're talking about $17,000. I'm not just saying throw money away, but this is money that needs to be spent to make our staff more efficient.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Tillman. Are there any comments, other questions, I should say, from council members before I move this to public comment?
And while you're waiting to hear that, Ryan, perhaps you could stop sharing your screens. We can all see each other in our boxes. There we go. We're all in our boxes now. Thank you. That makes it a little bit easier.
Just a quick question. Just a quick question.
Go ahead.
Raina, what is the cost for the other, the one you used in San Pablo, the other government site?
Gosh, I don't have that off the top of my head because it's been a couple of years since we invested in that software. And we actually invested piecemeal, so I don't have that information, unfortunately, at the tip of my fingertips. I mean, I can certainly get it, but it was a relatively expensive implementation when we did it 4 or 5 years ago.
And you found it less user-friendly, more difficult for the public to get more transparency. It just didn't work for you, or
it was. It had some similar features internally in terms of budget preparation and departments being able to put in proposals, et cetera. But we weren't able to turn it around to use it as that kind of public portal for a digital checkbook or those kinds of transparency pieces. It really wasn't as suitable for those tasks as the product that ClearGov has in front of us today. And it wasn't nearly as intuitive to use to put together.
so 3 years down the road, we may even get something that's even more effective. It sounds like it's moving, the technology is moving very quickly. Anyway, those are my questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Wolf. Any other questions from councilman before I move it on to public comment?
I have one for Catherine.
Certainly, Vice Mayor.
Sorry. Catherine, how much time savings, if you just had to quantify it off the top of your head, do you think that this would give you? I saw your face, Raina. You had to just guess weekly. How many hours could this save?
It's gonna save it. I'd say at least 100 hours of time, and that's probably just my staff time, not just all the staff time that are going to be working in it. Even council members, or the TLC committee or budget and audit committee. Like, I really believe that the collaboration that it's going to add within the city is just going to be just as valuable as the time savings, because somebody could try and could say that we're making this, we need to make this recommendation for this item in the budget to be updated, but seeing that through, if it's in multiple places and whether that happens, once the budget is actually built is another thing. So I think that the time savings will be huge, but also the collaboration between everyone within the departments and within the city council and to our community.
Okay, and then just to clarify, you said 100 hours just for yourself, which doesn't make sense to me. Just given, I think that you're probably getting some kind of sleep. So did you mean with all of those people touching it each week, it could save that many, or?
No, I think in just my time, the way that the current budget is being built.
Over a year.
Oh, she said
over like at least like a few, well, even like over like I'd say 3 months.
100 hours a
during
week.
The budget. Well, and like when we do our mid-year next year, the mid-year review will be much easier.
Okay.
And more comprehensive.
Thank you.
With that, we will move this to public comment. If you and the public would like to speak towards this item, which is a resolution towards adopting, appropriating funds from ARPA for the purchase of this software, please raise your hand. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
have a couple hands that just went up. The first person I will be promoting to panelist is Terry. Terry, as I promote you to panelist, if you can please unmute your microphone, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Janet. Can you hear me, Mayor Clayton?
Welcome, Terry.
Excellent. All right. Just wanted to, reiterate again, appreciation for Catherine and the staff for bringing this forward. I think with the time that this is going to save for the staff and the transparency that this is going to bring to the community, and the fact that we'll be able to utilize ARPA funds for this, I think this is really a no-brainer. I really appreciate the presentation and showing the interactive nature of this tool. I think that that'll be very valuable to our residents, and I hope we'll get the word out to the residents that this kind of tool is available for folks to to take a look at and to better understand how we've gotten where we are with our financial situation and where we're going. So I appreciate the initiative from the staff to bring this forward and appreciate the opportunity to hear the presentation. But I think this, with the amount of time this is going to save, this is the cost for this is a no-brainer. I think it'll probably pay for itself, is what I suspect we'll learn after this time period's up, where the ARPA funding will fund it. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Janet, are there any hands that are available for this item?
There is. Gary, as I promote you to panelist, if you can please unmute your microphone, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, I think I'm live.
Greetings, Gary. Welcome. You're on.
Thank you, Council. Anyhow, great presentation. I think that was Ryan that gave the presentation. It looks like a very intuitive software, well put together. The problem I have with it is I really don't think as a city we're ready for that software. We don't really know where we've been, where we're going. I think it's great if you have a city that's following policies and procedures. I've heard mentioned tonight of different procedure manuals we're not following. It seems like we're off course, and until we can get on course and really know where we're going, how would one expect the city to put their things onto a software program when really we don't know where we're going and how we're driving to that particular destination? So I think in the future might be a great software, but I think the expense now, probably, even though someone else is paying for it, I agree with you, Peter, that we're going to pay for it down the road. The concern is to get up to speed, you have to input data. So if it's garbage in, it's garbage out. Right now, we've got a lot of garbage. We've got a clean house. We've had a lot of audits. We've never really followed through with any of the recommendations that we've had as a city for our audits. So I think until we clean house and get things back in an orderly fashion, we're really not ready for this software. I mean, there's no way. Who's going to input the data in from 2019, 2018, 2017? Somebody has to put that data in there. And if the data is incorrect, we're getting incorrect data out. I think the software is a great software. I think Ryan did a great job with his presentation, but we may want to revisit this down the road when we get our affairs more in order, because right now, between chart of accounts, expenses, different department heads, we've just got to follow our manuals to know where we're going. And at this point, we've deviated from that greatly. I'm not sure how we did it under Gary Napper. In prior years, I think we've had balanced budgets, and all of a sudden now we have this problem. And I'm not sure I'm buying the story that it's due to being understaffed. I just think it's back to leadership. And I don't want to insult anybody because of that, but I think we need leadership in order for this ship to sail and get to the destination. Right now, I think we don't have the leadership, and the software is not going to get you there. I could give you the best manual in the world how to fly an airplane, but until I teach you how to fly it, you're probably going to crash it into the ground. So I hope that's a good example, but I'd like to see the council hold off on this until we get our affairs more in order. I'd like to thank you again for my time. And again, I'd like to apologize for last time I spoke. I know I ran over and I didn't do that purposely, but hopefully tonight I'll cut a little short. Thank you.
Gary, you nailed the time just right in 3 minutes. And Janet, are there any other hands open for this item?
Mayor Cloven, I do not have any other hands raised on this item.
With that, I will close public comment on item 9B and bring it back to the city council for comments and discussion. I believe your hand is up, Councilmember One.
Kind of. It gets
Kind of, sort of in the I can kind of see you moving there.
I saw it for a moment. I have just some general comments that aren't really in any particular order. You know, and in terms of efficiency, I think efficiency is great. Well, first, Ryan, the presentation again, we saw a similar presentation yesterday. So I thank you for doing that. I think software looks, it looks great. So no problem with that. Efficiency, whenever we say that we're going to gain efficiency, I think it's important to note that like most of our staff time that we're talking about are sunk costs. Like we can save 10 hours, but we don't save 10 hours worth of dollars. We may gain. So really when you're talking about is what are the other things that we can do with that time? What's the value add in that saved time? And so it's not necessarily a one-to-one or apples to apples comparison when we talk about efficiency. So I get that it's always better to do things more efficiently. It feels better. You're able to do better work. All of that's great. But it's not really, bottom line, it doesn't really help on the dollars component. We didn't really talk about maintenance of this type of platform. So the way the information that we got yesterday, the way it's supposed to work is after you close your books or whatever periodic timeline that is established, I think monthly or biweekly or some regular interval of time. After you close your books, you output a data file. Data file gets sent somehow to the software company, and I guess they have a team or a staff that build the mapping crosswalk between the data elements, and then they'll map it into your whatever structure that they've established for you. And I guess the turnaround is a couple days, which is odd to me. It's pretty quick, but regardless, after you do it, the data gets loaded, the actuals get loaded. Your budget's going to be once a year, perhaps one update on a mid-year, or if there's some emergency and we need to change the budget off cycle, I guess we could do that. But typically it's once a year, and then you may have one edit. So the real thing is updating actuals, and so it's really great to have that. I mean, I would struggle to see fund accounting getting displayed on a way like this. I think the way fund accounting works would be less accessible. If we could probably adjust it and do like some high level look on it if we really wanted to on a roll up basis. But the maintenance of that, like as you add account or as you add structures or change structures, there's a reconciliation effort associated with that. There's going to be staff time to maintain the thing where you have to like initiate the process to do it. The claytonca does, they don't have any kind of data integration with our system, so it's a manual push into theirs, which is fine. We're not that big, so that I think there's an element of maintenance involved and staff time involved with this that isn't really captured here. I don't really know what the level of effort that is, but that's something to consider. I guess I am concerned about the funding. I guess my two main concerns are the funding model that we're talking about, and our need to focus on what I would consider blocking and tackling. We have challenges right now. At the earlier items we talked about with the accounting plan, where we're still gathering information. That's like our core operations of accounting. And until we are operationally excellent in our core, like core function, I'm just going to dub it blocking and tackling, the basics. By implementing a tool like this, it is kind of cart before the horse to me. I think, if it takes away time or focus on the remediation on blocking and tackling, that piece, I think it's the wrong order. We can get by pretty, like the spreadsheet. I've seen the spreadsheets for the budget. Yes, it's not great to work in spreadsheets. I kind of live in spreadsheets, so it's fine. But blocking and tackling is the key. And until we do that, it's hard to like implement tools that are like leapfrogging ahead when we don't have the basics down. That piece is, it's just something I'm thinking about. And then the overarching thing that I think is to consider is the funding model that we're talking about. Yes, it's 50,000 over 3 years with like, I think it was a 4% riser, or is it 3? It was some percent that gets locked in. We can use ARPA funds now, so it feels like it's free money, but it won't be in the future. So that's one. But what we talked about yesterday, and I think what we'll talk about, I'm trying to look at the agenda. Are we talking about it later with the mid-year thing? Maybe we'll talk about it. Well, ARPA is on this one, on this item, so we can talk about ARPA as part of this agenda item too. Now, Raina, you can correct me if I really want to kind of explore the ARPA funding component more, because from what we heard yesterday, and hopefully I interpreted this correctly, the guidance around ARPA funding has been significantly loosened from our original understanding. And so originally we said, well, it had to be used for X, they laid out 6 purposes or something like that. And 2 of them really didn't apply to us as a city. And then, we were operating under those. Well, it turns out that they, over time, as the ARPA, over time as the feds or whatever started developing their guidance, the ARPA, the eligible uses of ARPA funds is what I want to say. It appears, from what I gathered, that has been greatly expanded, which is great. Like, that's cool. The cities get a lot more latitude in what they can spend on. So that's a great problem to have. But at the same time, whereas previously, with our previous understanding, we were only comparing like 2 or 3 possible things we could do. And so the choice set was very easy. And so we made decisions based on the available information and that we had, and I think that was the right thing to do. Now, if we learn that, well, we've spent, I forget the staff work just said, we spent just south of $700,000 total, give or take, ish, of the approximate $2.8 million that we're going to get. So you have like $2.1 million left, give or take. And the way that it sounds like is that we're able to use that for essentially anything. And so if this is pulling out of it, it's no longer pulling out of a limited use. It's pulling out of what could essentially operate as general fund. So at the same time that we're having, that one-time fund or one-time use, right? Not an ongoing source, but one-time use. And at the same time, we're having structural deficits looming. If this is not taking out of a pot that's separate, this pot is the same pot that we could use to address those structural deficits. So it's no longer a comparison of this action versus a limited set of actions. It's like a comparison of this action versus all other possible things. So then the question becomes, is this the highest, best use of funds at this time? Or is there, does it make sense to engage with a software platform that's probably ahead of where we are in terms of blocking and tackling, when we know that we have other structural deficits that we need to address, that those same money can be used to? So by allowing a wider latitude of funds for ARPA, it makes it so that now you're weighing against everything. So that's what I'm thinking about. And, that's not really a question. I don't know, it's not a question, just commentary. That's what I'm thinking about.
Appreciate the commentary, Jeff. And yes, I'm aware that there are some changes in the ARPA rules, and that's something we will need to discuss as a city council in the future. That's not specific related to this item. I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that. I want to get back to a couple things. Number one, Gary Hood's comments. I want to give both Catherine and Raina to get a chance to respond to his comments that he said that we're not ready for this. And yours is saying that we need to simply be blocking and tackling. I'm looking at this differently than you. I'm just saying very clearly. With the amount of conversation and heat that I have received in the past couple of weeks relative to where we are from budget considerations and future budget considerations, this is a transparency tool. It's clearly a transparency tool. It's a tool for that it put on the website, and people wanted to drill down and see what they wanted to see. That is exactly what I'm all for, is seeing how skinny we are, how tight our belt is, and so people can actually have those conversations. And that to me has extreme value in light of the conversations we're going to have in the next couple of years. If we're not successful in November, that conversation is going to come up in the next year and the year after. And if we don't have a transparency tool where our community can actually look at what we're doing from a budgetary standpoint and be able to visualize it themselves and try to, instead of drilling down into individual spreadsheets, I think we're going to be in a serious world of hurt. Secondly, I appreciate Gary Hood's comments, and I do. I appreciate his comments and your comments. They need to block and tackle. I have seen how hard our staff is working, and I am confident in their ability. They did not create this issue. It was the audit trail was due to challenges that happened over the couple of years, and the transition in staffing that happened over the couple of years. And I believe they're on top of it, and they're working their tuchuses off to make things right. And under your review as a budget audit committee, they've got challenges ahead of them, but I'm seeing their efforts and seeing their desire to make things correct. So if you don't mind, I'd like to bring this back to Raina and Catherine to talk about specifically answering that, why they are ready and why this is an important tool.
So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of weigh in on that topic. We need to do both and not one or the other. And that is to say, we are working on improving the ongoing operation of our accounting functions, et cetera. And we have had audited books every year, so it's not that we're so far out of whack that we can't make sense of the numbers that we have had. Further, regardless of whether we think we're behind, in the middle, or ahead of the game on blocking and tackling, we're going to take whatever numbers we have and put them into some system and produce a budget. And I can say that what we've been doing to produce a budget in an increasingly complex financial situation is not even close to a best practice. So as much as we're trying to work on ensuring that our numbers continue to be in an acceptable shape on the accounting side, if it's garbage in, garbage out, it's garbage in, garbage out into a spreadsheet or into a system. However, what the system gets us, and I don't believe that we're at a garbage in, garbage out situation, but with the system that we have now, we do not have a good way to manage budgetary information, either in the development, the monitoring, or the communication of it. So while we can make spreadsheets work, I mean, certainly, all of us probably started doing our budgeting in those kinds of spreadsheets. The amount of time it takes to go through and catch every formula and every place it shows up and turn it into a PDF document and turn it into a Word, into a text format. And one of the things Ryan said today really resonated with me. He said, because the system creates the budget book, right? And it basically says, go look for this number and put it into this paragraph. I cannot tell you how many times we have put together the budget, gotten it ready to go, read it one more time and realized that in 3 places, the number is not the same as it is in the other 4 places. And we couldn't find it before and we didn't see it. And so we end up both having wasted a lot of time and produced subpar work. And so I don't know that I would say that the efficiency that we gain in terms of the use of this kind of a platform turns itself into monetary value, but it does turn itself into quality. It turns it into excellence. And further than that, and I think the mayor referenced this quite in his most recent comment, that the amount of work that Catherine and myself and others in this organization are continuing to put in order to just barely keep up with the work is not sustainable. I can't ask my staff to continue to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week on an ongoing basis. And so what do we gain from the efficiency? We gain the chance that we might be able to keep some staff longer than a year or 2. We gain the ability to perhaps free up their time for more strategic thought and action as we go forward. And so I think sort of pitting, well, we can either focus on spending the money on the accounting things, and we will have to spend some money there. But I think we're absolutely ready to move into this kind of a system to allow us to take the information that we have, process it in a way that makes sense, and communicate it in a way that makes sense. And so I think it's an incredibly valuable tool. Would we survive without it? Absolutely, we'll go and we will continue to do it. But the time and effort that it takes to produce something that, quite frankly, becomes really challenging to quality check, I don't believe is the best use of our time.
Thank you, Raina.
And I think my response, I'd like to reshare the quote that that I had in my last presentation. Can you guys see my screen? Are you seeing the screen now? I'm sorry.
We are not seeing this. Now we're seeing this.
Okay, now you're seeing the screen. So I just would like you to everyone to really think about this quote, because I think it's really powerful in what we're doing in our work right now, that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. This, to me, answers all the questions in this one very simple quote by Albert Einstein, who was a very smart person. You know, I don't think that we can keep going around in circles doing it the way that we used to do, but we will still encounter problems. And I also want to emphasize that the collaboration, that the software will help us collaborate and communicate with our constituents, I'd say is the biggest reason that I wanted to bring this, because I think that I don't know how many residents are actually really understanding our current budget book and how we're presenting it, and are they really you know, able to find things, and do these paragraphs mean you know, they might read a paragraph here, are they able to find that detail in the budget? What does it mean to them, you know? So that's the biggest reason that I wanted to bring it forward. I really do believe that it will create value and add value to this community. So.
Thank you, Catherine. Any other comments from the council? Yes, Jim.
Yeah,
Councilmember Phillips, please.
a quick question. Since the ARPA funds and the benevolence of the federal government has relaxed and modified the use of that second round. What is the lifetime use of that second round, Raina? Is that, are we have a limit on that? Just out of curiosity.
So we plan to bring forward a recommendation in at the next the April 5th meeting that will talk about this.
Yeah.
But if we move forward with the most flexible use of those ARPA funds, we essentially will be able to put our own timeline on the use of those funds. We will not have an outside federal timeline that we will need to meet for spending of those funds.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Just to clarify on that, so let's say there's $2.1 million remaining of our ARPA allocation. And if we use that, I don't know what to call it, that pathway, or is it an election? Do we make an election to do a certain pathway? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay, so we make the election to do it that way. That's essentially 2.1 million that goes into a general fund that we could just spend.
The recommendation is that we would set those monies into some sort of pandemic recovery reserve that we can then, the council can direct the use of those funds. But there is no longer, once that election has been made, there is no longer a tether to the timeline that the federal government has set.
What about eligible uses?
There is no longer a tether to the eligible uses that the original funding was set for.
Okay, so I mean, you could put it in a fund. Well, I guess that's part of another item that's later on the agenda, setting up a fund for it. But I mean, it's going to act very similarly to our, what do you call it?
Governmental services, right?
Yeah.
It is
It'll just be general fund dollars.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what I was getting at earlier. Because then it doesn't have the same. It doesn't get the same treatment as how we were contemplating it in some of our earlier meetings a couple months ago, which is a very different assessment, I think.
Yes,
The federal government made a huge change.
Yeah, it could be very beneficial to the city of Clayton.
I mean, it's going to be. I think that's a done deal.
Yeah,
that's a conversation for
right. No,
item.
I agree.
We're talking about this specific item and this particular request by the city for this particular software.
Yeah, but it's not separate from that. I mean, if you're using ARPA funds, that's part of ARPA funds. I don't think you can divorce having a conversation about the overall ARPA program or whatever, this body of funds, especially given that the way it's going to be, given the requirements for it. I mean, it's part and parcel of the spending, and you don't really make decisions on. I mean, I know this is not the magnitude of dollars, in the grand scheme of things. We don't really make decisions in a vacuum. You don't say, well, this is just, if you piecemeal the decisions, I just think that leads to, that's not the way that I think about spend. I would think of it from overall. And, earlier we were talking about transparency. The budget as we have it, like it's in this current agenda packet. I mean, you have all the general funds, you have, by account, by fund, by prior year, current year budget, current year actual, current year projected. I mean, essentially it's not, I don't necessarily think that you're going to get any new information. You'll get it in a different format. So, that's one thing. The cloud-based collaboration where you can have the input, I think there's value there. Like that's pretty useful. So yeah,
there's going to be a great conversation about the ARPA funds at a future council meeting. Right now, the reason this is an important request that's been specifically asked for by our finance director and our city manager relative to a need that they have and our ability to support them relative to that need with funds that are currently available through ARPA, which I get that's a conversation we can have in the future. I will weigh in right now that Given the limited expense of this fund, $16,500 for a 3-year trial, and the desire of our staff, which is clearly stating their need and their the ability for this to relieve them of stresses that they are currently dealing with, whether we agree with it or not. It's a request that, and our ability to support our staff in this particular request. And I will weigh in personally that I want to support our staff in this particular request. And I get we have a challenge on the ARPA discussion in the future, and we will have that. But with regard to this resolution, I am supporting our staff in their request.
Given the fact that we, as a council, took it upon ourselves to support our staff in the past with these ARPA funds, and given the small amount we're talking about here, and the fact that they're asking for something that will help them in efficiency and in transparency for our citizens, these are paramount goals for me. I think that it's important that we support our staff, just as we did last month or the month before when we doled out the ARPA funding. And so I'm in support of this.
And I'll also add, even though I'm sure Nextdoor will light up immediately as soon as I say it, but I don't care because I'm not here about Nextdoor. We were elected to make hard decisions. This, to me, is a no-brainer, as Terry said, and others have reiterated. The fact that we are sitting here still debating this after we have heard from staff how effective this will be for them is asinine to me. When we're looking at the amount of money that this is, and the fact that it currently is right now ARPA funds, which are from the federal government and not currently out of our general budget, this is minuscule in the grand scheme of things compared to our overall $5 million budget that we have to have. Staff is saying that they need it. I refuse to have more staff turnover because we are so inefficient in what we're doing on a daily basis at City Hall. Not acceptable. So the revolving door stops now. And if somebody wants to post and say the Wolf Pack is spending money because of XYZ, feel free. Knock yourselves out. I'm definitely all for what our staff is asking for, and I'm ready to make a vote on this resolution.
Any other comments or discussion from City Council? If not, I would entertain a motion to adopt resolutions appropriating the American Rescue Plan Act funds for the purchase and implementation of ClearGov budget and performance management software platform.
So moved.
Second by Tillman.
We have a first by Councilmember Wolf, a second by Councilmember Tillman. Janet, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Diaz,
No.
Councilmember Juan,
No.
Councilmember Wolf,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tillman,
Absolutely.
Mayor Cloven.
Yes. And with that, item 9B is closed. And we'll move on to action item number 9C, which is a fiscal year 2021-2022 mid-year budget review and the adoption of a resolution authorizing the creation of a separate fund, 232, for the American Rescue Plan ARPA revenues and expenses. And we'll move that to Catherine for you to discuss this.
Hello, again, I am going to share my screen. Sorry. So can everyone see the screen?
And
yes, okay.
Absolutely.
So this is the mid-year budget review for fiscal year 21 to 22, so this current year. Our current adopted budget for 21-22 that was adopted last June puts our revenue and expenses very close. As you can see, our revenues are at 5.185 and our expenses are at 5.177. So it's a tight it was built with a tight margin for error. And we're just going to review that right now. The current general fund expenses are, we're projecting about a $20,000 loss, or a $20,000 less than what we expected. I'm going to go through it by department. It's pretty close. Sorry, here we go. So general fund overall revenues, our anticipated decrease in overall revenues is around $42,000. And this is due all in part to pandemic related items. We have a small decrease in sales tax revenue, or a small projected decrease in sales tax revenue, a decrease in police permit and fees, decrease in planning service charges, fines and forfeitures. Investment interest income has gone down some, and we had no revenue from the Clayton Community Gym. That was around $20,000. And just before we get to the end of this, when at the very end, we are going to look at assessing this in June when we know better what our actuals will be, and recommending to appropriate some of the ARPA funds to make up for the loss and to balance the current year's budget if needed. Going on to general fund administration expenditures. I'll start. Our legislative department 01 will be on budget this year, so we don't see any decreases in those expenditures. Our administration department, which is 02, will be, we're projecting us to possibly be slightly over budget. However, this may not be the case, and this is very close, and we still have some allocations that we have to do for the Clayton Cares program for staff time, that we can allocate staff time out of this fund to make up for, that. So we may decide to do that. We may not with the new ARPA regulations. So that's something that we'll decide closer to June. But this loss is mostly due to the interim, the cost of the interim finance director. That was an unexpected cost. We go on to the Public Works Department, Department 03. We won't see a loss in expenditures or over budget of expenditures for this department. We're on budget, but there were additional cleaning costs in Public Works, and there were additional cleaning costs across all departments. So that's something that we could look at, and we could decide to allocate funds from American Rescue Plan monies for cleaning costs and increased cleaning expenses. For the Community Development Department, we also see that we haven't spent as much as we expected, by around $22,000, and this was mostly due to the interim nature of the community development director, and our current community development director was hired 3 months into the year as a permanent employee, and so for 3 months we had salary and benefit savings. For Department 05, which is the General Services Department, we are expecting around $15,000 of increased expenses over greater than budgeted, due to the slightly higher than expected insurance costs, unemployment costs, OPEB retiree minimum PEMCO health contribution, our new positive pay system that we're paying with Bank of America to protect our money from fraud. That's around $500 a month. The implementation of a comprehensive update to our city's general administrative policies, which also includes training and updating the policies. For the police department, we're projecting our budget to be over budgeted on expenses, and this is also due to the pandemic and response. We've had increased overtime expenses in the police department, and that is the pretty much the nature of having a 24-hour operation that you have to run, staffing levels. They've had on and off issues with staffing levels during the pandemic. We have seen a savings in the police department of around $45,000, so that offsets the extra overtime costs of $83,957. But we still expect some overtime through the end of the year. So May to June timeframe, we will know better what these overtime costs will be, and we can appropriate ARPA funds for this, because these were it was a direct result of the pandemic, and we saw spikes during times when employees were gone and had to be out with COVID. We did see some savings in the unfunded accrued liability in both the police department and public works. And this is due to the fact that most of the employees that are being hired are hired as not as classic employees for PERS, but as PEPPER employees. The engineering department, 08, has around an expected $1,000 over budget due to increased workload in this department, which it's a minimal amount. The community park department, 09, will see some savings, also due to the unfunded liability. And so we will be under budget by about $6,500 in this department. The Trails and Landscape Committee, or Fund 210, met last week to review their portion of the budget. Their revenues are currently on track at $665,000. And they will make the budgeted revenue of $1.2 million. Their expenditures are currently at 31% of the budgeted amount for the year, and this is largely due to staffing shortages, drought conditions, which reduce the ability to consider significant planting efforts. And staff in the TLC committee will be working on a plan to move all non-planting projects forward more quickly. So the discussion of the American Rescue Plan Act funds, we are recommending that we create a new fund for these monies to be transferred to all revenue and expenses, all revenue that have come in, all expenses that have already gone out, that we would transfer these all to a new fund. Right now, they're currently within Fund 230, which is a special revenue fund. This will also be a special revenue fund, but it will just be its own separate fund. So it will be easier to track these monies going forward. And we can have, off of this one fund, we can create multiple projects and report a lot easier than we're able to. So having its own fund will allow us to easily segregate revenues and expenditures, It will help us with our single audit requirements that we will be subject to since these are federal funds. And to date, we have used $678,000. That's actually, I think it's about 110,000 higher now because this meeting, the 110,000 wasn't reflected on this, that we have granted out in additional Clayton Cares Act monies just for during this meeting or after this meeting. So the Clayton Cares program is actually at $530,000 now. Essential worker pay was at $232,000 and program administration is at $22,000. So that is going to be a resolution to create this new fund. The rainy day fund, or Fund 110. So the starting fund balance of this was $177,000. This fiscal year, there have been 2 council approved resolutions directing the use of these funds for police radios and for polling for the possible tax measure. The current projected ending fund balance of the rainy day fund is $113,971. And that is actually the end of the mid-year budget review. So I open it for questions.
I'd like to just add quickly one other thing. The creation of the fund for ARPA does not change anything about at what point we have a conversation about further allocations and selecting a path for reporting, et cetera. It just allows us to manage the accounting for those funds, however we manage them, to be a little more straightforward because they're a little better isolated. So I just want to clarify that in case there's any confusion. You're not pre-making a decision regarding any further allocations, et cetera. You're just allowing us to create that separate accounting for them.
Excellent. With that, we'll open it up for questions from the City Council. Are there anybody who have questions for the Finance Director Arena on this item? I think you're muted, Jeff, if you're talking.
That's unfortunate. Can you give some insight into the actual at 12/31 versus the projected? It seems like you would think that for things that are happening ratably over the year, you'd expect a near, somewhere close to 50%. On some of the funds, it's not. And I wasn't quite clear on why that was happening. General services is pretty heavily weighted towards actuals. And I'm guessing that's because our insurance premiums are annual and that's the biggest portion.
Correct.
But like community park is at 30%. And library is also at 37%. Those are probably the 2 biggest outliers outside of general services. I guess engineering, am I lining this up right? Yeah. Engineering is at 42% of projected. So we're a little bit shy. I'm just wondering what the cause of that is for those.
So I can speak answering first on engineering. So we presented numbers at 12/31, but because we're a little bit later in the year, we have been able to look a little longer in terms of, what we thought our projection was going to get to. And so, for example, in engineering, we know we had slightly higher costs in January and February. In January, February was actually back down a little bit. So we know about where we're going to be with, we had a slightly better understanding of where we were going to be as we were projecting for the second half of the year. Similarly, we have a slightly similar situation for both of the other 2 functions for community park and for library. I think we may end up seeing those. One of the reasons to hold off on recommending making any adjustments now and making those adjustments in June is to say, well, some of these, again, we're just making our best estimate based on this point in the fiscal year. And so we will have better numbers as we get closer to June. So I know the engineering detail a little bit better off the top of my head, but the other two, I think we may end up staying farther below budget than we anticipated, or that we were projecting more conservatively than we may end up.
Okay, so there's not, I mean, engineering makes sense to me because we have a good handle on those projects, but the other ones, there's not enough information right now to do that.
It's a little more variable. It sort of depends on what comes our way, for example, in terms of maintenance activities. Plus, community park, we know has picked up already since the end of the year because we're headed into Little League season, and so we've done a whole bunch of work at the park. Plus, as we start to use the watering again, as we come out of winter, we know that we'll have breaks in the water lines, et cetera. So community park is likely to be that will pick up in the spring. The library, I think we're just giving it a conservative estimate, but there's no particular one way or the other with respect to the library.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the one thing that stood out to me was that, at community park on 7335 gas and electric, and, because everyone's PG&E bill is going freaking crazy. So, we have actuals at 1231 at 37,000, but we project 2,000. So I was like, that seems weird. I didn't know what was going on with that. So I don't know if we have, a geography issue there.
I think that is I think we've got some lines that are perhaps crossed there. So we'll take a look at that and correct that internally in our own system.
Sure.
This is a spreadsheet, not attached to anything else.
Yep.
Well, so which line, Jeff, just so I can be specific as to what you're referring to? Are you
7335 and 7338 in Department 09? We'll look at those two lines. Good point.
All right, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to get into the granular detail. It's just the ones that kind of don't match the near 50% trend are the ones that kind of stand out. So
yeah, good point on that. I think the numbers are flipped.
My only question.
Recap number one. Any other questions from the council before we bring this to the public? If not, we're going to open up item 9C to the public for public comment. And if you have a comment, you got 3 minutes to speak on this mid-year budget review. And Janet, do we have any comments? Any hands on this item?
Mayor Cloven, I do not have any hands on the site raised on this item.
Thank you, Janet. Much appreciated. We'll bring it back for discussion. And again, for tonight, we're basically just voting on the ability to create a specific fund, separate fund, 232 for the ARPA revenues and expenses.
That is correct. And then we'll report back in June on any potential adjustments needed for this fiscal year.
And I'll bring it to the city council. Is there any additional discussion on this item? If not, then I will bring it. First of all, I want to close public comment on that. Thank you. I apologize. So now we'll bring it back and to city council comments, which we have none, as far as I can tell. If there is a motion I would, for the creation of a separate fund 232 for the American Rescue Plan Act. We'll accept that now.
I'd move it.
Got a first by Councilmember One
Second, Diaz.
and a second by Councilmember Diaz. Janet, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Diaz,
Yes.
Councilmember Juan,
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tillman,
Yes.
Mayor Cloven.
I am also a yes. And with that, it passes 5-0. And we will close item 9C and move on to action number 9D, which is adopting resolution to approve professional services agreement with Anchor CM through June 30th, 2023, with up to 4 one-year renewals for city engineering services, authorizing the city manager to execute agreement and appointing Larry Thies, PE, as a city engineer for the city of Clayton. And with that, we'll move conversation to Raina, who has a big old smile on her face.
Raina does have a big old smile on her face, or rather your city manager is pleased to bring you this item to give it its due gravitas. So the item before you this evening, and then you'll have another quick item at the end as the Oakhurst Geologic Hazard Abatement District Board of Directors. It is with great pleasure that I bring you this agreement with Anchor CM, Anchor Construction Management, a local firm who is going to come on board as our city engineer. And they have also partnered with a number of other firms to bring in extra specialties as we need them for particular projects or issues. The city, as you know, has had Harris Engineering since 2017, and through a variety of changes in staffing at Harris, they really could no longer support Clayton locally. And so in January, I issued a request for proposals. I was very pleased we got 5 proposals they were evaluated. The 2 strongest were interviewed, and by far the strongest proposal came from Anchor CM and Larry Thies. And I'm gonna let you introduce yourself so we can all hear your name said correctly. I apologize in advance. On board as the city engineer, as well as a very talented team supporting him. I am extremely positive about this. This is a team that has a lot of Contra Costa County experience. Larry was previously with the city of Orinda, first as city engineer and then as public works director. He also has with him at Anchor, Jason Chen, who succeeded him in Orinda as city engineer. So they're very familiar with Contra Costa County, all of our quirky local funding sources, all of our stormwater stuff, all of those items that really have given us a challenge as we have not had a local firm on board for essentially a year now. So the cost for the agreement is very similar to the costs under the current agreement with Harris. We will have a retainer in place initially, and we will evaluate that after several months to make sure that we've got that sized right so that it's fair to us and fair to Anchor. We have already begun the conversations or setting up the conversations in the hope that this item is successful this evening to arrange for the transition between Harris and Anchor. I'd like to offer Larry the opportunity to introduce himself and maybe just talk a little bit about kind of his vision for this process, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions, public comment, etc.
Good evening, council members. I'm Larry Thies. You guys got my pronunciation right. I appreciate that.
Larry, that's
yeah. Not Larry, but Thies, Larry Thies. Even my mom doesn't call me Lawrence, so it's Larry. I'm very appreciative of the selection by Irina and the city of Clayton in this recommendation tonight. I am kind of getting used to getting back into city council meetings. It's been about 6 months since I was in city of Orinda. I'm very used to the process Like Rena mentioned, we have a lot of experience within Contra Costa County, very familiar with the typical, CCTA, type of overall approaches, Contra Costa County as a whole. I don't want to take up too much of your time. You got a very busy agenda, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But, we're trying to bring municipal engineering services. I could say Clayton is one of the unique opportunities within Contra Costa County that consults out their entire city engineering services. So we were very happy to see that it was being solicited and also going through the process. As you can see, we have many members a part of my team. I'll be your point person, probably more the face for the council, for city staff. But we have quite a few people we have assembled to address all the needs the city would need for either design engineering, assessments, geotechnical work, traffic engineering. We really want to be comprehensive. And one of the things we stressed before in our interview was, these are all firms that we've worked with, myself and Jason at Orinda, at other, in our times with Contra Costa County. So it's not a new team in that sense. It's new in this coming to Clayton, but these are folks we've worked with, and we're very pleased to be able to take on the challenges of Clayton and, understand that, a lot of things need to get done, and, we'd like to be able to help out as best we can. So happy to take any questions on my background or anything you may have. So, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Councilmember Diaz, you got your hand up.
I have, Larry, I have two questions. One, could you give, I'm going through the package here of the firm. Can you give us a little brief thumbnail on your professional background? And also, secondly, what experience does your firm have overseeing maintenance type functions, city maintenance type functions?
Okay, so overall, our firm has been in existence about 20 years. In the last 6 months, the vice president purchased the company internally, and I came on board when she purchased the company. And so my role from City of Orinda coming into this position was to provide the type of services I'm already used to as being not only a city engineer, but a public works director. Anchor does have some, overall staff augmentation experience, over the last 20 years. It varies, different types of roles. Currently, we're providing, some help in City of Martinez for encroachment permit. We do a lot of inspection services for various agencies. In terms of the maintenance or public works, that would be more my own role, and Jason Chen, who was my city engineer, who's come on board with Anchor. We both oversaw the maintenance crew in Orinda. The crew is one superintendent or one supervisor with 3 crew members and various contractors. So I would say my direct relatable experience is we had a maintenance, albeit relatively small compared to other cities, a maintenance department and engineering department. I oversaw both. So I'm pretty used to having both hats, so to speak, as a public works director.
Further question. I see most of your colleagues are professional engineers, and I'm looking to find your designation. You are a professional engineer as well?
Yeah, it's a requirement to be a city engineer, yes.
Yeah, right now. I want our neighbors out there to know. I know.
Also, our deputy city engineer, he's licensed as well, but a lot of our sub-consultants are licensed engineers.
Yeah, no, that's a very important and also a very challenging designation that you must get from the state of California. So I personally appreciate that, and just wanted to make sure of that. But is it going to be the responsibility of this new firm, Rena, to oversee our maintenance function?
So it's one of the things that we've talked a little bit about, and certainly to the extent that, capital projects and capital maintenance and other functions are, there's a strong link between maintenance and engineering. Yes, we will be having them work very closely together. Maintenance will still technically report up through me, but we will rely heavily on the city engineer and his team to really help assist in moving those kinds of projects forward and putting some kind of advanced planning efforts into place so that we're better prepared as we go forward, more so than the day-to-day.
Thank you.
Yes.
Quick question, Larry. We were previously with a single firm that provided the majority of our services, and I noticed that your contract has got multiple subcontractors underneath you. I just wonder if you could speak to the efficiencies of project work relative to your working with those contractors, and is there any inefficiencies because of that, based on your basically your subcontract with multiple different entities?
Well, obviously that's my main role, is to provide that continuity or smoothness of getting those services done, efficiently. I would say that, all the folks on board are well aware of the on-call nature of this, these situations. Now, I would say each sub-consultant has different, sort of timelines. Like assessments are obviously assessment districts are on a very, rigid or, predictable cycle typically. Where like traffic engineering, unfortunately, if, someone gets hit in a crosswalk or something, those tend to, be immediate. I've worked with like AMG, Joy, for 8 years in Orinda. He was actually in Orinda before I even arrived. And he's always been very responsive. Their firm very well tied to CCTA. So they're very knowledgeable of, the upcoming types of global projects that are going to be implemented throughout the county. What I'd say is we've had a good understanding. We partnered with CSG. They're a much larger firm than us, so they have 300 employees, when they're height, the seasons. So they definitely have more capability to spread the work, and the design, the development review, the ones that are a little bit more longer lead or bigger chunks, CSG's involved, so they do have kind of that, Harris has a larger kind of in-house group. CSG has something similar. What we partnered was, I have the experience working with a local agency. I'm very used to staff reports, working with council members, working with the public. And, I can provide that expertise while still working with these consultants that are used to working directly for a city, but not necessarily being the point person or the person coming to you at, at the council meeting on a, monthly basis, or depending on how regular I need to attend, be your face for anything engineering related. So I do think we have the bases well covered. I think in terms of response time, it will, each consultant knows kind of what areas they're in, and they understand, usually how these things tend to, proceed. Either some are more regular, some tend to be just out of the blue, right? And I think those are pretty common.
Thank you. Council, are there any other questions of Larry? If not, I believe we're going to open this up to public comment for item 9D. If you have a question, you have 3 minutes, and please raise your hand and we'll call upon you. Janet, how are we doing?
Eric Cloven, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
That is excellent. And with that, we'll close public comment on item 9D and bring it back to City Council for discussion. Is there any council members who would like to open up the conversation?
Welcome aboard.
Move approval, Jim Diaz.
Second.
We have an approval from, first by Jim Diaz, a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wolf. Janet, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Diaz,
Yes.
Councilmember Juan,
Yes.
Councilmember Wolf,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tillman,
Excuse me. Yes.
Mayor
Yeah.
Cloven.
Absolutely. Welcome to the team, Larry. We appreciate your being here. We're looking forward to good things.
Thank you.
Welcome, Larry. Thank you very much. I'm going to send Larry back to the waiting room there. You do have a brief item after this council meeting for the Oakhurst Board of Directors. Larry will be here, but I don't expect to bring him back in because it would sound very much like this.
No, because back there we're gonna vote no.
No, you won't. Just kidding. But thank you, really. I'm looking forward to this and feeling very, very positive about it. So thank you very much.
Excellent. With item 9D closed, we're going to go to item 9E, which is an update on the Contra Costa County land use permit revision application pertaining to the amendment of the CMEX Clayton Quarry reclamation plan and the availability of the draft environmental impact report prepared for the project. And with that, we will take it to our Community Development Director. Dana, you have the comm. Go for it.
Thank you, Mayor Cloven. I don't have much of a presentation this evening for this group. We are not really presenting to you an application for your consideration for approval, but we did want to follow up with this group at following the request of this group to stay updated on the land use permit amendment currently being reviewed by Contra Costa County with respect to the CMEX Clayton Quarry. So I'll be brief and just summarize the staff report. It's all the information that you need is there. And then there's a little book that goes along with it as well. But at this point, CMEX has gone through the process with the county has filed an application to amend their reclamation plan, not their operating plan permit, but their reclamation plan permit. And this is in response to some concerns that the county had raised with respect to their already approved plan that it may cause some drainage and flooding issues downstream. So CMEX has filed an application to amend their reclamation plan. The reclamation plan is essentially the program of uses for the site following closure of the quarry. Let's see, a couple highlights to that plan. It does involve digging deeper and creating a deeper quarry pit, but does involve a smaller footprint. So there are certain areas of the site that would not be mined. It also potentially shortens the lifespan of the quarry by about 40 years. So instead of having a horizon closure year about 2100, it would be closer to about 2170, possibly earlier, depending on market demand if that increases. At this point, the county has hired a consultant to prepare an environmental impact report. That environmental impact report has been subject to public comment for about the last month or so. It will remain open for about another 3 weeks for public comment for individuals to submit comments on the environmental analysis in the EIR. Following closure of the public comment periods, county staff and their consultant will go back and write responses to comments on the environmental issues that were raised with respect to the EIR. And then following that, there will be hearings on the land use permit amendment itself, the revision to the reclamation plan. And at that point, people can comment on that, the project itself and whether they feel that the county planning commission should approve or not approve the reclamation plan amendment. So that's the current update. I believe Councilmember Diaz did mention earlier during Councilmember comments that there was an ad hoc committee meeting last week where two of this group and members of staff and city staff and staff of CMEX did meet to discuss the proposal, where the project is, what the process is going forward. And there was some presentation shared by the CEMEX group, which the CEMEX staff offered to give a similar, presentation to this group at the entirety of the group at a future meeting date. So that is the current report. Again, this is not an action where the city council is being asked to approve anything or deny anything, but we did want to report back and give council members the opportunity to follow up with any direction to staff with respect to comments, environmental comments that you may have on the EIR that you would like us to put forward to the county. With that, if there are any questions, I'll happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you. Both Jim and I had a chance to meet with the CEMEX staff. And Jim, do you want to state any?
No, I thought it was very thorough. We had the plant manager, we had the government relations people, both from Sacramento and their local representative, as well as another operations person. And we got a very thorough review of this process. So nothing further to add, except we're waiting to see what the next steps are.
Thanks, Councilmember Diaz. I will tell you, for those of you who are just curious, the original plan that was approved back in 1984 called for taking the east rim of the quarry, which is the hill you see before the quarry, and to knock it down and backfill the hole. Literally push that whole hill into the hole. The time frame to do that was about 3.5 to 4 years of constant earth moving. Now, I have talked to residents who live just north of the quarry, and their constant complaint is the amount of dust that is generated. Dust, another word for dust is particulate matter in 2.5 and 10 micron range, which is hazardous to breathing. The amount of dust that would be created by the moving of that much earth over that period of time would be extremely hazardous. Not only that, you get the amount of carbon emissions that would happen just from the amount of diesel engines that are moving all that dirt. It would be, pardon me, an environmental nightmare to do that. Not only to mention that the original plan had significant runoff issues in the Diablo Creek, which would cause serious downstream issues. So what they're planning on doing is basically leaving the hole wide open and going deeper, and then letting rainfall fill it over time so it'll eventually become a lake. Now, that's not going to happen in our lifetime. It'll be many, 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 many years down the future. But the aesthetic of what they're approving and the stormwater control which they're approving is highly beneficial to Clayton. And I really appreciated the thought process that went into it. At some point, CEMEX is going to ask for us to submit a letter of support for their EIR to be presented or to be given to the county, I believe, as part of the review of the EIR. Is that correct, Raina?
For the project when it goes to Planning Commission, not related to the EIR per se.
But they're looking for our blessing and a letter of support for what they're planning. And I will just put that out there. And obviously, nothing will be signed until all of you feel comfortable with that. And they're planning a presentation on May 3rd and would like that support for them afterwards. As somebody who works in the environmental field, I found it comforting that they have put some thought into the process, which they are doing. And I think it will be beneficial long-term for Clayton. Are there any other comments from council members or questions of council members?
Mayor, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Was there any conversation regarding them going deeper and the large blast that we had on Veterans Day? And I know that they had talked about it back then about mitigating that, but did you guys bring that up at all with them?
Absolutely. There was some significant discussion to that end, and they explained the anomalous nature of that particular blast based on where it was located and how the air wave impacted Clayton. They are very cognizant of that. They will talk potentially about that in the future, but they're going deeper, and the blast is going towards the wall, not towards the future and towards the town. And it should be significantly mitigated in the future based on their, again, cognizance and their desire to not allow that to happen in the future. So they were very aware of our challenges associated with that.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other questions from City Council, we'll open up to public comment on this item number 9E, and you have 3 minutes to speak if you raise your hands on this item. Janet, how are we doing?
Mayor Cloven, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Thanks, Janet. Much appreciated. We'll close item 9E and bring it back to City Council for discussion. This is not a vote. We're just basically going to accept the report as presented and wait for their conversation or their presentation on May 3rd. Is that pretty much the extent of what we got in front of us, Raina?
That is correct. So if there are no other questions or direction to incorporate into the letter that Dana will be submitting to the county, then we are done with this item.
I would love to say that. Item 9E is now closed and we are finished with action items and get to move on to closed session, item number 10, for which there are none. And move on to item number 11, council items for future discussions and future meetings. And if you have something you'd like to speak about, please bring it forward. Seeing none, I will be bringing forth a request for a future proclamation. I would like to have a proclamation of Otter Day in honor of Dana Hill's swim team, which won the Contra Costa County swim meet last summer. They're about ready to go into the new season the coming year, and it seems really appropriate to have the coaches, the parents, and the swimmers acknowledged for their efforts. That is, as a former Otter parent who spent many a Saturday morning and taking my kids to swim meets, I understand the effort. I understand the amount of work, and I understand that the quality of swimmers in Contra Costa County that made them, allowed them to do that, that is incredible. And I would like to proclaim Otter Day at some point in the future. So we brought to future agenda item. If you have comments, let me know. Are there any items for future conversation? If not, item number 11 is closed and we go to item number 12, my favorite part, which is adjournment. So we will adjourn this regularly scheduled meeting until our next meeting on April 5th, but please don't go away because we are going to bring it right back to Councilmember Diaz with our GAD report.
Thank you.
At 9:36.
I'll call to the order the Oakhurst Geological Hazard Abatement District meeting of March 15th at 9:36 p.m. and would the city clerk secretary call roll?
Board Member Tillman?
Present.
Board Member Juan?
Here.
Board Member Cloven?
I'm here.
Vice Chair Wolf?
Here.
Chair Diaz?
Here. Okay, thank you. We'll now go to item 2, which is public comment. And do we have anybody that wishes to speak on items that are not on the agenda? And you will have 3 minutes. I don't see anybody. Janet, do you?
I do not see any hands raised on this item.
All right, then I'm going to close the public comment and move on to the consent calendar. Anybody have any comments on the consent calendar, which is approve the minutes of the our meeting of December 7th, 2021? Anybody? Okay, then I'll open that for public comment. And if we have anybody, and I don't think we have anybody for that either, do we, Janet?
We do not.
All right, then I'm going to close the public comment on the consent calendar and bring it back for action to the board.
Move to approve as written.
Second.
Move Cloven, excuse me, Wolf. Is there a second?
Second, Cloven.
Okay, second Cloven. Janet, please call the roll.
Board Member Tillman?
Yes.
Board Member Juan?
Aye.
Board Member Cloven?
Yes.
Vice Chair Wolf?
Yes.
Chair Diaz.
Yes. Thank you very much. That concludes that item number 3A. And we move on to item 4, which is public hearings. We have none, so there's nothing to do there. We will move on to item 5 and 5A, which is an action item, which is to adopt a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Anchor CM through June 30th of 2023 and up to 4 one-year extensions for the assessment district management services. And I will turn it over to the city manager to talk about that, as we already took action at the city council level. Raina?
Thank you, Chair Diaz and board directors. This is the equivalent item for the Oakhurst GAD for the assessment district work, but specifically naming Larry Thies as the general manager for the Oakhurst GAD. That is another named position for us, and so requires the specifics of having that named. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'd be happy to hear some public comment and have a motion.
Right. Well, we thoroughly discussed it and had a great presentation by Larry Thies and his representing the team. So any questions from the board before I open up public comment? Hearing none, then I will open up the item for public comment. And it doesn't appear we have anybody. And I want concurrence from Janet Calderon.
That is correct, Chair Diaz. I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Excellent. We'll close the public comment on action item 5A and bring it back to the board for a motion, second, and action.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I think that was Member Cloven.
Yes, indeed.
Second, Tillman.
Second, Tillman. Moved and seconded. Janet, please call the roll.
Board Member Tillman,
Yes.
Board Member Juan,
Aye.
Board Member Cloven,
Aye.
Vice Chair Wolf,
Yes.
Chair Diaz.
Yes, and we again welcome Larry and his team to the general managership of the Oakhurst Geological Hazard Abatement District. Thank you very much and welcome, Larry. That concludes item 5A, and we'll move on to item 6, and that is for board items for future requests, and we'll open it up.
I would reiterate my request from the past 6 meetings.
For the past 6 meetings. Thank you, Board Member Juan. Any others? Okay, then we're going to close that item. And it looks like this meeting is adjourned at 9:42 p.m. Thank you so much. We'll see you all on the 21st.
Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your evening.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.